Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Inter Worldwide Podcast. This is episode number 68, and today I have two guests. One from London. He's part of the Bauscia Cafè community. Hi, Eduardo. How are you?
Hi, everybody. I'm very well, thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
And then from Houston, we have Mohammed.
How are you guys? Everything is well here. Wishing everybody happy holidays.
Great. So today we're gonna talk about the two games that happened in the last week. 6 points. We were playing at Cagliari and we were playing at San Siro versus Napoli. Very different games. The most important thing is that we got 6 points, but since we are Inter supporters, we are never happy. So I think after both game, there was something to talk about, and so let's go with moment. Sorry. What do you think of these two games? What was your reaction?
For the first game, I'm gonna start with the one that started first, which is the Cagliari game. I'm very happy that we won this game because I was very skeptical before the game, and I had my suspicions about how we're gonna approach it after the Champions League, but we won the game in the last 20 minutes. I think that's what we did. I thought we were very poor in the first half in terms of chance conversion, which has been biting us for the whole season now. We had a lot of chances, but we could not convert. And I know that a lot of people talk about the brilliant Cranio in the goal of Cagliari, but I think the finishing for our forwards need to be better. And this game should have been done in the first half. Uh, but we came at the end thanks to Barella, our golden boy. Uh, the guy is brilliant and good, and I think everybody played well, other than two people. And people talk about Ericsson that he played good 15 minutes in the beginning, and then he faded away. And I have I looked at the game and I watched it again, and I think I can see why he would fade away because he does not fit the system. And Perisic was not in his best game that game, but I think it was overall it was a good comeback, and I think it helped us in the game after, which was Napoli, because we went to the game confident that even if we go behind, we can come back, and the the guys had good confidence. Um, the only I think Napoli game was very cautious from both sides. I think both coaches did not want to lose more than they wanted to win, and that was reflected in the whole game when we did not have a lot of shots and chances. They had some counters on the chances on the counter attacks, but other than this, before the we scored, it was just a closed game. Every team would go behind the ball with everyone once they lose it. I think the only negative thing that I would take from this game is that everybody sees something that when we get the result that we want from the game, we drop back, and until now, it never worked. For the Lazio game, we were up 1-0, and we had a man up, and we did the mistake of dropping back, leaving Lazio to attack us, and they got the tie. And against Real Madrid, once we got the 2-2, in the second half, we dropped, and they scored the third. And against Mönchengladbach, when we were up the first game one, we dropped back and we almost lost the game. Uh, it was it's and then this game were 1-0 up, and then we had the man up, and the substitution that happened when Lautaro Martinez went out and Hakimi came in, and then everybody's behind the ball and they have one player less, and they had chances, and I think Napoli deserved a point from this game based on the chances they created with 10 players. They deserved a point. We were very lucky, and I think Conte weathered a storm from the fans. If they have tied this game, everybody would have flipped on Conte because you have the opportunity to kill the game after, push up, and then have the ball. We have the best position stats in the league. Enter with 11v11, and now you are 11 players against 10, and you're leaving the position to Napoli, who are away, and they lost their best player, Insigne, to a red card, and then we're dropping back. Betania almost scored, and they had a lot of chances. This is what I think, and we should learn from this, that being 1-0 up does not mean you drop back and fight for the win, because one mistake and you lost 2 points, and almost happened. That's what I think.
Yeah, almost happened. Petagna hit the post. I just wanted to point out that the two games were almost like mirroring each other, meaning that against Cagliari in the first 70 minutes we had so many chances and we were down 1 goal. Against Napoli in the first 70 minutes we had maybe 1 chance with Lautaro that we didn't create, and then after that we score versus Cagliari. The last 20 minutes we were just scoring basically, and versus Napoli it was the opposite. We were just defending, but at the same time the team that we were facing were behaving in a very different way. Napoli was going all in, so of course you take Lautaro off for Hakimi and looks like, oh, Conte is scared, but at the same time you have to understand that Napoli had nothing to lose and was attacking with everybody at that point. So these are two different ways to read the game, and I think at the end of the day, if you get 3 points, that's what matters. But Edo, what do you think?
Well, yes, have to say there's not much to add to the remarks just made by Mohamed, because they picture very well what has been the difference between those two games. If I can find another striking difference is how we reacted to the to those two games, to those two situations, and this is a trend that has been happening since well, perhaps even beyond this season, that we are much better in recovering a game that has turned out to be negative for us, rather than in defending our game, which is actually the most difficult thing. Against Cagliari, Conte has put the right replacements, has changed the right guys, and actually D'Ambrosio has been critical in turning the game back to our side, whereas against Napoli there have been a couple of changes, and Lautaro instead, and Hakimi for Lautaro has been the most important one that have caused the effect, basically to withdraw the balance of our team and giving away all the middle of the center of the pitch to the Napoli team. Napoli team that changed on the other side, putting very energetic players such as Politano that have literally outpaced our team, and in this way, all the advantage that came from from gaining from being 1 man up with against Napoli was faded away in just one move. So Inter needs to. Inter, and by Inter I mean Conte. I think he needs to learn and to understand better what is the spirit of the game as it unfolds, so that he can think better of how what changes he can make. I think that he is a little bit too stereotyped in the changes he makes, and by doing this, it can be more predictable for the opponents. And of course, if an opponent is putting all of its energy to try and recover the score, this can be more difficult. In terms of the general approach to the game, I agree with what has been said earlier, that both Inter and Napoli were thinking about not to lose rather than to win, and this game could have been finished very well, very easily, 0-0. But at the end, the real difference was that Napoli had some more quality players on the pitch, so they knew a little bit more what to do with the ball once they were in possession. But at the end, the gameplay was similar between the two. One thing that I would just like to remark is that even in that game that was so blocked, in the very only play that we made with a high pace, with Sensi playmaking the ball to Lukaku. In that only occasion, we had the penalty kick in our favor. So even in that occasion, we can be able to do something good to also in that circumstances. So perhaps we should need to be more confident about our quality and more confident to put what we can do in terms of quality and quality players in the pitch, also in those occasions.
Can I add to what Eduardo said about the game? Just a couple of things about the quality, which is since he added to our game when he came in. The difference when on the left side of the attacking, when we had Ashley Young and had Gagliardini going from the left, it was very hard to get the passing between the lines that is needed to open the space in the Napoli defense. It's in my opinion, if you have Ashley Young as a fullback on the left, the wing back, you'll need to have more creative player in front of him for that side to be at least going forward, have a chance of creating something. This side, when we have Perisic and Gagliardini, Perisic is sometimes he has his ability to dribble and cross and maybe create something, get a corner from that side. But Ashley Young is turning into a very defensive player, and this is why Conte trusts him. It changes with Sensi, and also in the first 20 minutes in the Cagliari, when we had Perisic and Eriksen, we created a couple of chances from the left side of the field, and that relieves some pressure from Barella, who is trying so hard to move forward all the time to help the attackers. On the other hand, the two forward, I noticed that since the first Shakhtar game, when Shakhtar held us to 0-0, when we should have won the game, everybody now changed to play 5 in the back against us with one line, knowing that our forwards, they like to get the ball to their feet when they're back to the goal. They do not turn and make the runs to break that defense. And that makes it very easy for any defense to just stop us. Even Napoli were holding one line on the defense, and then they were just avoiding that space behind them because our forwards don't run. So I'll just have to agree with Eduardo that since he added that extra touch that we can play that final pass that will release the forward, that created the difference for us.
Yes, I agree with this. And one sometimes worrying and alarming trend that we have is that apart from the first couple of games of the season against Fiorentina and Benevento, in which some new ideas seemed to be in development for our attack, actually. Since we came back to the 3-5-2 with a more rigid module that ultimately gave us more balance between attack and defense, but carries the disadvantage that at the end we are much more predictable. Our game plan is not very difficult to tackle from the opponent's point of view. We need to add some extra touch. We need to do something more because at the end, in the long term, this could be perhaps the decisive step up to win something at the end. And yes, this can be the most important take-home message for the Christmas break, and for Conte to think and to add some quality to the team.
Yeah, I agree with both of you guys. We were talking last week about the plan B, and the plan B is basically either Sanchez or Sensi at this point, because Eriksen, when he's playing, it's like almost is not playing because he doesn't get enough balls to play, which is very weird. I think it was the game versus Cagliari. Once he got subbed, the player who took his spot got immediately double, if not triple, number of balls to play, even if there were just 20 something minutes left. So it's either Eriksen is not positioning well, or there is something else going on. I don't know that. I have no idea. But if we already know it's not gonna improve from now to this January when it's probably leaving. So we need to bring in Sensi and Sanchez more. Too bad they're both very prone to injuries. So we need to find another solution. But that's a different story. Right now, I was mentioning not only we got 3 points versus Napoli, but at the same time, Juve, Milan, and Atalanta dropped points, which was awesome. So now we are in second position. We're gonna play versus Spezia the next game, and at the same time, Milan is playing as Sassuolo versus Sassuolo. Lazio is playing versus Napoli. Atalanta is playing versus Roma. The only one that can have, let's say, an easier game is Juventus at Parma. So I think this could be a very good possibility for us to go back on top, or at least keep the same distance from the other teams. Mohamed, what do you think?
I think it's this season. Conte said something, I think, before the Napoli game about the pressure of winning the Scudetto. I can't remember if it was before the Napoli or the Cagliari, but he said that everybody wants to win the Scudetto, and there's only one team that's gonna win. I think you're absolutely right. Milan's next two games are against Sassuolo and Lazio, which I'm expecting them to drop more points, and for me, I'm expecting us to play Spezia very an easy game like the Benevento game at the beginning of the season, because Spezia on paper they play good football, but they just won two games. One of them is against Udinese when they were struggling in the beginning of the season to get their way of playing. Now they're playing great. And the other one, I think Spezia, I can't remember the one again. Is somebody else that is Benevento, if I remember, and these two teams were not very strong, and I think Spezia struggles to cope with the Serie A, the difference between Serie B and Serie A. For me, it's all about finding the balance in the 2 weeks, because in 2 weeks we are playing 4 games, and it's very, some players, as you mentioned, are injury prone, and it's very critical to keep these players healthy during the season, because we talk about the depth in the beginning of the season that Inter has the most depth. But now we are last game, we did not find midfielders to play other than the three that played. And now Brozovic limped out of the Napoli game. And if Brozovic does not play, who is going to play the deeper role in the midfield that gets the ball out from the three center backs to the other midfielders or the forwards? So we need to. Barella has played a lot and he needs a little break. But I'm expecting Vidal to come back on Sunday, and I'm expecting him to keep going and be back strong and play that defensive role really well. I hope Sensi stays fit. But I watched Spezia only a couple of times, and I think that they are good on the counter. Their forward and Zola is a very good player, and he is their top scorer, and he can create problems. But I think our defense can handle him really well.
Yes, I agree with this analysis of Spezia. Spezia has an interesting type of play. They play some good football with some interesting forward game, but they are inconsistent. They have certainly underachieved compared to the bulk of game or play that they have made, but I think that they shouldn't be such a big deal for Inter. But at the same time, of course, nothing to underevaluate and to overlook, because it can always be dangerous. But yes, we should prevail over them, especially from an attacking point of view, because they also have conceded lots of goals to their opponents in the last minutes of the game. So it shouldn't be a big opponent, and especially in that day in which other contenders are playing against each other, we should take some points and not drop them. Different is from against Verona, because if I'm not wrong, okay, no, we will play Verona in Milan for what it's worth, because it's always behind closed doors. But Verona
I think
has
it's Verona
a type.
Inter, actually. I think
At
it's
Verona Inter.
Mhm.
Okay. Verona has a type of play, apart from all the interesting football that Juic plays and has always played with this team. But Verona plays exactly the type of game that we suffer, especially because they put a quality player between the midfield and the forwards. And this is always something that we have suffered, even before Conte. For example, I remember some games against Atalanta which we didn't know how to do against Ilicic. Now Verona has Zaccagni that is playing perhaps his best football ever, and we should understand how to do against him. We should have a solid game plan to understand whether the defensive midfielder should look after him, or who and how of the defenders should look after him, because otherwise we might suffer a lot, as I mentioned earlier. So yes, Verona very tricky. Spezia might give us some head scratches, but nothing particular. I hope, at least.
Yeah, I agree with you. The Verona game is one of the games that I don't want to play if it's possible. I'm really worried about the Verona game. It's a great team. They're very good players, versatile. So it's really hard to read, and their coach is really smart. So he can change things during the game. And Conte, as we know, is not as good to change things during the game. Um, I want to hear again from Mohamed about this game. We also have to consider that it's a week from now, so everything can happen during the Spezia game and after. So who knows? But Mohamed, tell me what you think about the Verona game.
I agree with Eduardo about the Verona that they make teams suffer defending against them because of the free flowing football they play. But we have to point out that for Verona, their strongest asset is their defense. They have the second strongest defense after Juventus in the league. They do not allow goals on them. But on the other hand, they are at the bottom of the top teams scoring charts. They only scored 16 goals, while Sampdoria, Cagliari, Bologna, everybody scored more than them. So they play free-flowing football, but they worry about the defense a lot, because this is why they are a very inconsistent team. They lose home to Sampdoria, but they win at Atalanta. This is how they play. It's very, like, they are very strange in the way they do the games. They prepare very well, but they have their flaws. And I think our coach should be able to exploit this. I hope so. Let's hope so. But as Eduardo said, their main thing is the player behind the forward, that between the lines, that Inter always struggles because of the 5-3-2 we play, and the three midfielders, they shift from side to side. And we, against Atalanta, they scored on us from a pass in the middle. And against, I think, I can't remember which other team, they scored from the middle as well in front of our defense. But lately, Conte has been given instructions, which is, I can see on the field, that the midfielders, when they shift, like if the right midfielder Barella is closing on the right side, Gagliardini moves very close to Brozovic, and they close that area in front of the defense, which is one of the things that Eriksen did not do, and Conte yelled at him to go back and stay deeper. And this is when Eriksen struggled, because he could not shift again. And this is when Cagliari scored against us from the cross, because he was not going hard to close the guy that was about to cross. But I think Conte figured this out, that every fan, I think maybe he reads Twitter, maybe, we don't know. But all of us were talking about the area in front of our defense. We are exposed there. And I think Verona, they play very well in that area, but I hope that we can close that gap and be able to exploit their defense with Lukaku and Lautaro. Maybe he can get back to form. As you said, Alessandro, within a week, everything can change. Maybe he will get a goal or two against Spezia, Lautaro, and he will have his confidence back, and he will be firing again for us, as we all expect.
Yeah, I really hope so. I'm just worried if I look at Verona's player. I mean, we have so many ex-Inter player, and you guys know the golden legs rule. Every time we play against them, I can just see Faraoni is playing a great season, and last year the same, and have what's his name, Di Marco, Salcedo in the bench usually. And then they have other players that I absolutely love, like Tameze is doing incredibly good this Serie A season, and I expect even to see Colley, the midfielder, to play a big role in this team. Anyway,
You guys know
anything?
that DeMarco will get an assist or a goal this game. Like this is a rule for me. Like always, we play DeMarco. He always like plays very good against Inter.
Absolutely,
Yeah, yes,
absolutely.
like all people, all Inter players. Actually, one of the struggles against Cagliari was because Cagliari has lots of ex-Inter players. For Verona, another player that I would like to look very closely is that central defender called Lovato.
Yes.
That is who is very promising. He's only 20 years old, but he's demonstrated some good qualities, very good sense of position, and also some good technique for a defender. And he would also be and yet another one of the central defenders from Verona after Kumbul, after Rahmani. That well, actually the last this latter one we haven't seen him a lot this season, but Kumbul is playing discreetly well in Rome, and Lovato has already been in the radar of some high quality teams. So yes, overall they are quite a good team. They are very well trained. We also need to uh, find a way to tackle all and to contrast their game on the wings, because this as well is can be very important. And I also um, think that if on one side we have Damian, on the right, on the left we have Young, that is becoming a sort of a concern for me, because he's starting to be outpaced by too many opponents lately. And yes, we need to be extra careful on that.
Okay, and of course, we didn't mention the goalkeeper Silvestri. That is one of the potential Handanovic substitute in the next year, and I'm sure he's gonna play the best game of his life against us. Anyway, speaking of player that could join Inter, I would like to close this podcast with some player that you would like to see transfer in the next window. The Christmas time is coming, so if you have a list of player to ask to Santa, who would you like to wear our jersey, Mohammed?
As every Inter fan, I think I would like to see DePaul, who I think he fits really well in the three midfielders because he goes forward and he can defend really well. But also, for me, I would like to see another defensive midfielder that can run the same as N'Golo Kante, or N'Golo Kante is very far for us, but I think we can find someone in Serie A. I, I don't have anybody on top of my head, but I think this is one of the missing pieces in Conte's plans, is the person that can run for two lungs in the middle of the field in case we want to play Alexis, Lautaro, and Lukaku. We will need a defensive midfielder that can run the whole game and cover left and right to cover for the lack of defense that will happen from Alexis being behind the forward or if we play three up top. But DePaul is for me. I think we should go all in for DePaul. The other thing is the goalkeeper. Everybody's talking about the goalkeeper, and I think we need a transition from Handanovic, and it should happen in the second part of the season. If we are not gonna spend money on like Silvestri, which is I know that Verona is gonna ask for 30-40 million in the summer. If we are not gonna get somebody that can start right away in Serie A, we need someone that will transition. It's the same what happened with all our goalkeepers, with Julius Caesar transitioning from Toldo, and even Handanovic was a transition a little bit. So we need somebody to transition in January if we are not going to spend the money in the summer for a big goalkeeper. We need this.
Edo, what's on your list?
Well, my wish list is more on positions rather than on names. I agree that a quality midfielder that can also play in the forward position, perhaps for a 3-5-1-1. So something like a more a fitter Sanchez can be one of the must for the January transfer market. Secondly, I would like I already mentioned. I see that Young is decreasing his performances over time, and in the long term, for March, April, May, I would like to have some more alternatives that. Especially because I think that in the end, especially if no central defenders will come as fillers in January, D'Ambrosio will be considered mainly a central defender and mainly the replacement of Skriniar. So on the left wing, at the end, we have Young, we have Perisic, that can be tactically precious, but at the same time limited at times. We have Kolarov, that is perhaps even less reliable than Young, so perhaps somebody on the left would be welcome. For the goalkeeper, yes, this would be one of the main issues in the summer, perhaps not from the winter, but in the summer for sure. There will be many names that will be made. Also Cranio, since we have played against him and he played so well. So I think that much will depend on who we will sell, because of course Nainggolan, Vecino, they are on the list to lead the team. Perhaps Eriksen. Although I still believe in a sort of a Christmas miracle to have him fit and better fit in the team. Well, something similar to what happens also 2-3 years ago with Brozovic, that was basically boarding on a plane to Sevilla just to be called back, and after that January he started playing very well. So who knows? But yes. So if I could say first one, a quality midfielder that could play also more advanced, perhaps DePaul that was mentioned, but also other kind of profiles. Secondly, a left wing that might be more reliable and more consistent. And third, if I could say, in my wish list, a backup for the central defenders, but I'm sure that Conte will be pushing for a backup central midfielder to increase variability of his game in that part of the pitch.
that's fantastic because on my list instead there is a backup for a striker since we have Lukaku and Lautaro, and then we have Sanchez that is injured half of the time, and we have someone called Pinamonti, but I think Conte doesn't know that, so he's not playing the guy. And I think we should look into that. You were mentioning the striker, the Spezia striker earlier, and I think somebody like him would be perfect. I'm talking about Zola, and if not, maybe see if we can help Napoli get rid of their player Milik that is in a weird situation. Maybe we can give them Politano and they can give us Milik and we are even, or somebody else at least to help Lukaku and Lautaro to take a break. Other than that, of course, it depends on the people who's gonna leave the club. But we don't have Vecino, we don't have Nangolan, we basically don't have Eriksen, so we kind of need another midfielder, of course. So that's my list, kind of short. Another striker and another midfielder. If you guys want to add anything before we finish the episode, Mohammed?
I wanna have a Christmas wish that Inter win the two games and come Christmas we're top of the table. This is what I hope.
That would be awesome. Edo?
Yes, that could be a nice Christmas gift, and I join Mohammed to this wish. Yes, let's hope that we could find more consistency in the games. Also because depending on the situations in the past, we haven't behaved in the same way for two games in a row. That doesn't mean we haven't played two games in with the same approach or in the same way, but we haven't reacted in the same way twice to situations that mean being in one goal up or one goal down. I hope that in the process of team building, this could be another goal to achieve so that we can behave as a team better in this way from the near future.
Awesome. With this, I want to thank our guests. Thank you, Eduardo.
Thank you very much.
And thank you, Mohammed.
Thank you very much.
And I hope I can bring you guys a nice surprise before Christmas. But if not, I wish you 6 points and very good holiday season. So thank you guys. Bye bye.
Thanks a lot. Goodbye to everybody.
Bye bye, everyone.